So I finished The Last of Us, and holy shit. That game was like no other game I have ever played, like ever. I have never played a game that made me verbally say out loud, no, I don't want to do this, please don't make me do this. And The Last of Us 2 has several of those moments. It is really hard to come up with words for this game, but I'm gonna try my best. This is going to be a spoiler review, so I'll start with a non-spoiler review, and then people can leave when the spoilers start. So my non-spoiler review is that it's basically the game equivalent of that, like, there's like a type of knife that has like three, it's like a triangle shape-ish knife, and it stabs you and you're not supposed to pull it out because if you do, it'll do more damage. It's like that. It's the game equivalent of that knife, and basically it stabs you and twists that knife around, and then you can't pull it out until you get to a surgery, which is the end of the game. And even then, you're gonna be left with that scar for the rest of your life, probably. It's not even like the first game. The first game is my favorite game ever, or was my favorite game ever? Might be tied now. It's kind of hard. Like, I haven't really decided if Last of Us 2 beats Last of Us, because it is technically an improvement in every way, but there is a level of replayability that I can get out of 1 that I don't think I'll ever get out of 2, because 2 is too hard emotionally to play. Whereas 1 is like bearable. And people are gonna be like, what is wrong with you? 1 is super sad. Yeah, it's super sad. 2 doesn't compare to 2. The gameplay is better. The writing is just as good, if not stronger. It really gets the message it's trying to convey across. Whether or not you like that message, whether or not you like what it does is another story, but I think that it really gets its message across, and it really, really, really does well in its writing. So I would say, yeah, Last of Us 2 is a better game. You get more for your money. It is about, I think it took me about 30, 40 hours, roughly. It is better on the gameplay. A lot of people complained about the first one's gameplay. I didn't have a lot of issues with it, but I know that a lot of people did. This really goes above and beyond on that. It really took those notes, it really listened, it fixed it. There are more opportunities to kind of go around and shoot things and use your skills in a different way, as opposed to the first game where they were really, really trying to get you to use stealth. I guess really the best way to review this game is just to get into the spoilers of it. So I'm gonna do that. This is the spoiler part. You're gonna deal with that, I guess. The first game, you know, it tells the story of Joel. You play Joel Miller, and you are a smuggler trying to smuggle a little girl named Ellie Williams across the country to an encampment to basically find a cure for the disease that is going on in the world. For those who haven't played and are for some reason watching this, the cordyceps fungus that is a real thing that takes over ants and insects has mutated in this fictional world to take over people. And now people are infected with this fungus, and it's basically zombies, but they're trying to come up with a bit more of a scientific way as to why they would be this way. And basically the fungus takes over. Most people die before they get to full fungus, like most bodies can't handle it. But there are different stages of infection. You got runners, you got stalkers, you got clickers, you got shamblers and bloaters now. Shamblers are new. So you have this infection that has taken over, and the world ends. The world is ended. A military state goes into effect. There is there are quarantine zones set up across the United States. Basically, people are just trying to live day to day, going from quarantine zone to quarantine zone. And you have to get tested if you're infected, and you probably get killed if you are, because nobody's immune and nobody can fight off the infection, so it will just spread and you will spread the fungus to everybody else. It might be a little too realistic now, because we're actually living in a pandemic with quarantine zones and weird police state nonsense. It's 20 years after the start of this infection, and Joel is older, and his daughter has died, and his life sucks, and things have gone really bad for him. Now he meets this little girl, Ellie, and he starts to feel like a father again. He starts to get attached to her. It's really just about their relationship. Joel had kind of lost his humanity because of everything that had happened, and he had gotten so detached from the world that this little girl comes in. 14, she's not that little. And he starts to feel something again. He starts to care for her. He starts to love her. He starts to care about something other than himself. And that's kind of a big deal. And at the end, Joel kills a bunch of people to stop Ellie from dying. And you're gonna be like, why would he do that? Because he loves Ellie and the only one he cares about is Ellie. And it's a super selfish reason, and Joel is not necessarily a good person. But you don't care, really, because you love him and you love her and you don't want her to die. So you, as Joel, murder an entire hospital of people, including the doctor who's about to operate on Ellie. Some people might have some issues because the second game does pick up with him having killed the doctors, and I know for a fact that some people didn't, like myself. I didn't kill the doctors, but Joel would. That's what Joel would do to save Ellie. He would make sure they can't come after her and make sure they can't kill her. And that's kind of, it sparked a lot of debates. Is that robbing humanity of the cure? And probably not. There's a good chance that wouldn't have worked. People are like, but hope, like they had to try, they should hope, vaccine. You need a vaccine to get out of a pandemic. You need immunity. You need herd immunity to get out of a pandemic. LOL. And you can't just wait for everyone to become immune. It's gonna kill millions of people. The big issue there isn't, did Joel rob humanity of its last hope? More so, did Joel rob Ellie of her choice? And the answer is yes. Ellie never got to make this choice. She was traveling with Joel to go to the hospital to potentially become the cure for all of humanity. And she doesn't know what that was going to do to her, but as far as we know, she was willing to take those risks because she sees it as, it's me versus humanity, and humanity deserves a chance, and I can give them that chance. That's Ellie's choice. But Joel takes it away from her by killing the fireflies and taking her out of the hospital. He doesn't give her a choice. He doesn't ever, no one wakes her up to talk to her and be like, hey, this is the reality. Everybody robs her of her choice. Nobody cares what Ellie wants. They only care what they want. And that's a very selfish thing. Joel is super selfish. He tortures people. He murders people. He is not a good guy, but you love him anyways because he's a realistic guy. And in the apocalypse, morals and rules and laws change. Things change. They change who you are. They change what you do. They change what you're willing to do for those that you love. I'm stressing this because it's a big, big part of what the games are about. The game is all about the complexities of human nature and the lengths that we'll go to help those that we love or those that we care about and those that we will protect. And in the apocalypse, when you have to literally murder people, infected, animals, whatever, you're gonna lose a part of that humanity, whether you like it or not. So Joel is this very complex character. He's hardened. He's rough around the edges, and Ellie teaches him that he doesn't always have to be that way anymore. He can loosen up. He can have fun. He can be who he was. He can play guitar again. But, naturally, that can't last, especially after he robbed that choice from her. He can't. Eventually, she's gonna have to find out, and she's gonna have to deal with that. And he's gonna have to deal with that. And that's kind of where The Last of Us 2 picks up. Is Ellie is now 18. They have been living in a town called Jackson with Joel's brother Tommy and his wife Maria and a bunch of different people. They've set up like a whole little civilization. There's a nice little town where they can live and be happy and for the most part not worry as much as they used to. And, Ellie has been through a lot. And she is just trying to figure out how to live with the fact that there is no cure and that she could not be a part of making the cure. And now this world is still the way it is. And there's just nothing that can be done. There's no one who can make the cure. And she is left to be immune and alone in that immunity. She's never met anyone else who's been immune. This is hard for her. It's not easy to live life knowing that she'll never have to turn. She goes on a little date with her crush Riley and they go to a mall and it's fun, it's really cute, it's had a really good DLC if you haven't played it, but it ends with Ellie and Riley both getting bit and Ellie waiting to turn and her never turning and Riley turning, Riley dying, her best friend and crush dies and Ellie doesn't know how to accept that. So she is hoping that she can stop it from continuing. She's hoping that she can be a part of saving humanity, that she has this destiny to do good and she could do it. And it's taken away. And now she's trying to kind of live with that and try to figure out how to be normal, trying to figure out how to live in this world when she should have technically died and maybe even created a cure. Which, once again, we don't know if that would have happened. We don't know. She doesn't know if there would have been a cure, but she would rather have died trying than not have one. The game picks up. Joel and Ellie have a bit of a tense relationship, but they still love each other. They still care. They still do movie nights. They're, they live in a town with actual electricity now, so they have TVs and movies, and he's showing her like old 80s movies and all these things. And it picks up after the events of the trailer that dropped at E3 where Dina, the character Dina, kisses Ellie. It picks up right after that, basically. She's kind of mad at Joel still. We don't know why at this point, but she is. But she loves him. They'll be okay. They talked. Dina and Ellie go out on patrol, so you kind of start to get kind of a feel for her relationship to Dina. You start to get a feel for her relationship to this town and the people in it. She seems to fit in well. People seem to like her. She seems to have friends. Like, overall, life seems okay. That doesn't mean she's not depressed. It doesn't mean things aren't hard for her, but overall, things are better. So she goes out on patrol. Tommy and Joel are already out on patrol, which we all know means bad news. Basically, this all leads up to Joel getting murdered by the character of Abby. And it hurts. Like, a lot. Yeah. Ellie watches Joel get killed. And it's super hard to watch, and it's super painful, and it sucks. And a lot of people think that he got killed too early. And the way the game went, no, he doesn't. People are like, he should have had to live with his mistake. He does. We later find out in flashbacks, Ellie already found out. They'd already talked about it. They already knew. Like, he tried to hide it from her, and eventually she figured it out, and he couldn't hide it from her anymore. And so she already knew about it. And she was already working on her way to forgive him. The game uses a lot of non-linear storytelling, which actually is really, really effective, going back to the stabbing and twisting the knife. So we watch Joel die, and now Ellie is angry and wants to go get revenge. And Dina is right there beside her. So Dina goes with Ellie. They go to Seattle, Washington to find this group that killed Joel. And they're chasing Tommy because Tommy, Joel's brother, won't let that happen, so he doesn't want Ellie to go. He's gonna do it himself because Joel and Tommy have done this before. Ellie has not really. Not the same way. Joel killed an entire hospital for her. And Ellie is willing to do the same for him. Oh god, okay. That's kind of the premise, is that you are Ellie going to hunt down this group that killed Joel. And you know that Joel got killed because of what he did to the Fireflies. You don't know, but you kind of have to suspect. And you do find out that that is what it is. And for a while, you feel kind of safe. There's like a safety net playing Ellie. Ellie, you know Ellie. You know her from the first game. You love her. You care about her. You don't want Joel dead. You don't want her unhappy. You just want her and Joel to live a happy life, but Joel has the consequences of his actions caught up to him. And that is because he did something bad. He wasn't necessarily a good guy. He did something bad, but he did something good for her. Because he cares about Ellie and he loves Ellie. And he loves his brother and he loves, he wants to be a better person than he was, but at the end of the day, the actions of all that caught up to him. While you're playing Ellie, it sucks. It's super sad. Your heart is shattered into 1,000 fucking pieces because Joel is dead and Ellie is dealing with PTSD and it sucks. And you get some flashbacks of like what their relationship was like. You're kind of just going through Seattle with her and Dina, and you are rooting for her as the good guy, and you want her to kill these people. You really want her to kill these people. You shouldn't, because they're people, but you do, because that's what they deserve, right? They killed Joel, so they deserve to die, right? Ellie deserves to get revenge? That's what you're thinking while you play her. And, you get these scenes, you get these flashbacks with her and Joel, and they're really, like, some of them are good memories, some of them aren't, because there's the good memories and then there's ones of her finding out about the fireflies. And the good memory, there's this one where you're it's one of my favorite scenes in the whole game. And you're Ellie. And you're back in time with Joel. And it's Ellie's birthday. And they're at a museum. And she loves dinosaurs and space. It's like a natural history museum in Wyoming. And it's so wholesome. All you do, you're just playing. You're just playing Ellie. Walking around through a museum with Joel. And wow. Ooh. You're just walking around, talking about dinosaurs, and there's a lot of Jurassic Park jokes, and you find some hats, and you can put hats on dinosaurs, and she talks about the Deinonychus, and Joel thinks it's a velociraptor because of Jurassic Park, and it's just like, it's really, really cute, and you get to a point where there's a space section. She wants to be an astronaut. She can't be, obviously. He finds her this tape, and they get in a little launch thing. She puts the headphones in, he gives her a little cassette tape, and she listens to what a launch would have sounded like, and she imagines that she's going into space. And Joel found this, and went out of his way to find this for her, because he cares about her and because he loves her. And the entire time I'm playing that scene, because this comes after he's dead, I have never played a video game where I wanted so badly to stay in this moment, just this slice of life where, like, they're living, they're happy, they're happy, and they don't get to be happy anymore the second that scene ends, because the second that ends, Joel's dead. Joel is still dead, and Ellie is miserable. And I just kept thinking, I don't want this to end. I don't want this to be over. Can we just look at this museum forever? I prolonged that scene for a really long time. I did not want to leave it, because I didn't want to go back to reality. I didn't think this would make me cry again, talking about this. I thought I'd be like, yeah. There's this element of safety with Ellie as a character that you have. You go through 3 days of Seattle, you kill people, and it sucks. Like, it sucks. I mean, the stages of combat are the same. Like, you don't really feel anything personal, but they do put a little more touches into it. Some people will tell you you're going down, and then you're like, well, I'll kill you, I don't care. But a lot of people will be like, please don't, please stop, like, please. Okay, I give up. So they tried to add a little bit more details into just when you're going through the stages of combat, not fighting infected, because you shouldn't want to kill people. Like, you shouldn't. But it's actually one of my major complaints about the game, is that there was no real way to get around killing dogs, and I don't like killing dogs, and I was really mad that they gave the enemies dogs. And it's to highlight that the enemies are people too, and that they love animals, and, they can care and have pets, and now you have to kill their pets. You have to kill the thing that they love. So it's kind of, it's a commentary on how killing animals is bad, and this whole thing is bad, and everything is bad, everything is terrible. Where the guilt starts to come in is when you swap characters. And I would still say that this game is Ellie's game. It's Ellie's journey. And I think that it makes a lot of sense that Ellie's journey wouldn't condone violence. Because Joel was this type of person. This is a thing Joel would do, but Ellie is not Joel. Ellie was not toughened and hardened to do things this way. She does. She has. But she's not built for the revenge. And neither is Joel. It affected Joel. It hurt Joel. Like, it caused him to shut down. And without Ellie, he probably never would have opened back up. Ellie doesn't condone it. Ellie's not okay with finding out what Joel did. Like, Ellie's not okay with this kind of thing. But now she doesn't have the one person who was kind of her rock. Even with Dina, like, her girlfriend. Even with her girlfriend, she doesn't have Joel anymore. That's, like, kind of the big thematic thing with this game, is, like, grief and anger and depression and how you can lose yourself so easily to these things. does revenge really solve anything, and does it really help your grief? And the game ultimately answers no. Once you're done playing Ellie, you switch over to Abby. And Abby killed Joel. Now you have to play her. Now you have to feel about her. You have to care about her. And this is where the game became unlike any game I've ever played before. Because it's that moment where they really put you in the... If Abby had been the main character the whole time, you would feel for her and you would want Ellie dead. Because Ellie killed her friends. Ellie and Joel are responsible for the death of her father, who was the doctor that's going to operate on Ellie. Like, you would want these people dead if you were her and had played her and cared about her from the first game. And that's where the game becomes so fucking hard. The game gets a lot harder once you play her, difficulty-wise, but also emotionally. Because now you have to play the person you hate, and you have to feel bad for her, you have to empathize with her, you have to care about her and her friends who killed Joel. And that's... Whoa! I mean, I remember saying a few times, like, I don't care, it's just like... I don't care, I just want to move on. I just want to move on. Get me away from her. Get me back to Ellie. Get me back to Ellie. Get me back to Ellie. And then at one point it was like, no, I'm stuck with her. I have to play her. And you do start to feel for her. I mean, her dad died. And the guy who did it, she knew who he was and she could go after him, and she did. And it's fucked up. But that doesn't necessarily mean she and her friends deserve to die. In a video game, you normally get to sit comfortably knowing that what you're doing is the right thing. In the video game, you get to be the hero even if you're not. Everything is comfortably black and white, everything is right and wrong. And the first game does explore that gray areas exist. But at the end of the day, you still get to feel pretty okay about what you did, even though the game doesn't actually condone what you did. And Last of Us 2 doesn't let you be comfortable. You never get to be comfortable with what happened. Especially not when you get to play Abby. I personally probably wouldn't have started to care about Abby on her own, but they start making her friends really likable, the ones that you've killed already. Mind you, you've killed these people. So you start to like them, you get to know who they are, and she also finds two little siblings from a group called the Seraphites, or Scars, as the WLF, which is what Abby is from, or the Wolves. They call them Scars. The Seraphites don't like being called that. They are these warring factions for Seattle. The Seraphites are kind of a religious, culty, no technology, move on from the old world. They're very strange. They believe in God, and they had a prophet and a savior. And the Wolves are military. They rose up as kind of this anti-government, anti-military fascist, like, we don't want Fedra control anymore, which is the military. So they rose up and defeated them, but now they basically have become them. And ideologically, I do still think Jackson is kind of the best of the three factions, because you got Jackson with Ellie and Joel, you got WLF, and you got Seraphites. Jackson seems the most normal and least culty, but you can kind of see how these other groups form. So Abby finds these two kids from the Seraphites who are on the run, and Lev is one of my favorite characters in the game now. Lev is a little trans boy who's 13, played by Ian Alexander from the OA, who is a real Asian trans human. And when people are like, it's unrealistic to expect video games to cast actual trans actors, guess what? They did it. Not unrealistic, and the character is a big part of the game. They handle it really well. Throughout the game, like, the Seraphites are the only people who have any issue with him being trans. And Abby literally goes, why would they, like, at one point, he's lying and saying that he got kicked out of the Seraphites because he shaved his head, and that's against the rules. Basically, he says that, and she's like, why would they be not okay with a little boy shaving his head? Like, that seems like a normal thing for a little boy to do. And no one at any point, other than the Seraphites, ever call him by his dead name or his other, like, everybody calls him by the gender identity he is. He says his name is Lev, and he identifies as a boy, And every single one of the main characters that you play accepts that, and no one asks questions. It's actually a really good moment in the game where you find out his dead name, and you find out what the Seraphites don't like him. And he goes, "Do you hear what they called me?" And Abby just goes, "Yeah, I did." And he goes, "Do you want to ask me about it?" And she says, "Do you want me to ask you about it?" And he says, "No." And she said, "Okay." And it's not until you're talking to his sister Yara later that you find out a little bit more details, but there's not really a moment where it's pushed. It's just accepted. Ellie calls him him, like none of the main characters ever once are transphobic or weird to this little boy, and it's really nice because it's just kind of normalized. This game really pushed a lot for the diversity aspects and like pushed to tell stories that you don't see a lot in games, especially with trans characters. Like I did a whole LGBTQ breakdown, and finding trans characters that are accurately and kindly represented in video games is really, really hard. And the fact that a video game that is literally making me cry as I review it was able to do it, and able to do it pretty well. It's still tragic, don't get me wrong, the whole game is tragic, so tragedy strikes, but Lev lives. Even if some of his family doesn't. And Abby becomes his family. Abby becomes Lev's Joel, essentially. So you're stuck with, Abby's not really a good person who's done some horrible things, but now she has this 13-year-old boy who depends on her, and now she is his parent, effectively. So her journey parallels Joel's really well, and so they make you care about her, and they make you realize that she's not that different from Joel or Ellie. Like, she just was hurt, just like anyone else. Doesn't make what she did right. What she did was horribly, horribly wrong. I don't know. I'm trying to review this game, and it's really hard. Abby, you play Abby for a while, and then you have to fight Ellie. You don't kill Ellie, but you do have to fight her, and you do get really close to it. And I just remember not knowing what was going to happen, and it was the worst because I had to play Abby while it was happening. And I had to potentially kill this 14-year-old girl, and 18 now, but this girl that I fucking played a whole first game with, and now I'm playing Abby, and they're like, "See, this is not good." They're literally like, "This is nuts, this is bad, don't do this stuff." But you have to play Abby, and you have to do it. And I remember thinking, I don't want to do this. Please, like, let me switch back to Ellie. I am so uncomfortable. I hate this. And the game doesn't let you switch. You never go back. I mean, you do go back eventually, but you don't go back in that moment. You play Abby. You are Abby, and you have to fight Ellie, and you have to almost successfully kill Ellie. You do go back to playing Ellie for a bit, and you do eventually find Abby, and you do get to fight her, and you don't kill her. And in a lot of ways, I was glad you don't. If Ellie had done that, I don't think she really would have lived with herself well. But there's this whole, like, it was amazing to play a game that is not going to let you be comfortable with the horrible things you're doing and actually do it well. A lot of games have tried to commentate on how violence is bad. Like, I mean, one of my favorite games ever, BioShock Infinite, literally has a whole thing where, like, you killing people is bad, with Elizabeth and Booker. And it's true, but the game doesn't really care about that because you just kind of move on to mindlessly killing again. Whereas The Last of Us does it in a way that you get to have those waves of bad guys, and you get to have those waves of killing, and you do get to have that survival horror aspect while also being like, hey, revenge is fucked. It's not a good idea, and it's not going to make you feel better, and it's not going to solve anything. And you can hate and be angry at that person all day you want, but at the end of the day, they're a person just like you. They have a life just like you, and they have horrible things that have happened to them, and they've done horrible things just like you have. And there's probably a lot more I could say. I mean, I could break down Joel and Ellie all day as characters, and you can never justify what Joel does at the end of the first game, really. I've met people who try. I've met plenty of people who try to justify it, but I don't think that that's justifiable, and Last of Us 2 really hones in on that message of, no, this isn't justifiable, this isn't a thing you should do. And you should not feel good about it, you should not feel comfortable doing it. And it did it well. I mean, I sobbed many times. At the end of the game, you have a moment with, you get Joel and Ellie talking about how Ellie wants to forgive him. for what he did. She doesn't know if she can, but she wants to try. And that's like the night before everything goes down. There's just, it's such a good game. And I don't think there'll ever be another game like that. There's a lot more. There's so much more, but, you know, this was just kind of a ramble, and I think you should play it if you can. It was worth getting a PS4 for. I'll tell you that. Worth the game. It was worth everything. It was worth every second. It was worth everything. But I don't know if I will be emotionally prepared to play that game for a long time. And that's why I think The Last of Us 1 is still, like, going to be my favorite, because I can play it more than once, and I can, you know, I get to be comfortable. I get to get out of it. I don't know if I'm ready to be that uncomfortable again.